Welcome back, WNST, Tassel, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. The rapper out in front should tell you. It's been a little while since I got together with this guy. When he was the Cincinnati Bengals head coach, he would call in from time to time, and every once in a while we would share a pizza and a glass of wine together, or maybe sometimes at combines together. But earth, the distance, and his gig as the co-defensive coordinator of the Arizona Sun Devils, and I'm reading from thesundevils.com. He is the Sun Devil himself. Marvin Lewis, the one-time defense coordinator of our Baltimore Ravens. Marv, I'm wearing some purple, and I got my Rave shirt on. I have my Raven Magma lamp here from Sporticulture in the shot, right, and all that. But I must tell you, and I know Peggy and I keep even closer than you and I sometimes, Mike Flynn finally came through with that video, the one that he lost for 19 years. COVID forced him into his garage up there in Massachusetts, and I put him on the radio, and I crushed him for 20 minutes about losing the video of the parade. And he finally said, I found the videotape. He sent it. I shared it. I shared a picture with you and with Peggy, and I shared it with Kency Boulware and Peter Boulware earlier this week, and James Trapp and a bunch of other people. 20 years, Marv. 20 years.
It goes by fast.
Man, it really does. But I still have my real hair. I want to give you, every time you see me, you tell me I'm touching up my hair. And
it's a different color.
It is not a different color, Marv. There's silver in there.
I know. You tell me it's the sun. It's the sun.
It's the sun and the Sun Devil in me is what it is. How are you? What's going? Give me a little COVID update for you. And we keep in touch, but we don't keep in touch. And then this thing happens, and we're not in the same place at the same time. And I haven't been to Arizona. How? I guess you had a lot of playbooks as a coordinator and a coach and a life coach and all parent, grandparent, all the things that you are. Give me the pandemic playbook for Marvin Lewis from March 15th till now.
Well, ironically, I was in the process. Actually, I was in Cincinnati to meet with the CPA and accountants and so forth, financial people. And then our son, Marcus, who had coached at Hampton University a year ago, was moving from Hampton, Virginia, out to Scottsdale. And so I literally met he and my wife, and I drove the last leg from Oklahoma City back to Scottsdale with Marcus and his two dogs. So as the pandemic was beginning...
You're not a scout anymore. You don't have to drive from Oklahoma City to Scottsdale, Marvin.
I know.
I know how far that is on a map. What's that, 1,200 miles? How far is that?
Yeah, it was 12 hours. I know that.
Ooh.
But yeah, he has two rescue pit bull blends, so you got no choice but to drive with those two mongrels they got. You got those two big dogs. So, but it was good to get him. He's working at Arizona State as well. He had been offered a position here as an analyst with the football staff. So he actually is working here as well. So when the pandemic hit, we had been through half of spring football, which was a good thing. Our defensive coordinator we had a year ago, Danny Gonzalez, became the head coach at New Mexico. Coach Herm had promoted from within, a guy, really good young coach, Tony White. And so my job was to help assist Coach White as we prepared for the bowl game in Florida State and taking over as the coordinator and convinced him this was the thing he wanted to do. He didn't need to go to New Mexico with Coach Gonzalez or back to Syracuse, and that why leave when you can be the coordinator at Arizona State and we can go recruit some of the best players in the country. So he did that, and then literally in January, right before the signing date, the end of January, decided he was going to go to Syracuse anyway. They came back at him. So I've taken over. And Antonio Pierce I will pass the baton on to him, who is now the co-defense coordinator, who I had the pleasure of coaching in 2002 in Washington, who's just done an outstanding job here as a coach and recruiter. And I will pass the baton to him. But we've installed the defense, and we had fun this spring. That was one thing I did learn a year ago in my role, as I missed coaching, being as I was the special advisor, whatever my title was, to Arizona State football.
What does
I
that mean?
wasn't.
What is coaching to you at this point? Does that mean physically being down, looking kids in the eye on the field,
Yeah, it
whistle?
means right. It means physically, yes, coaching them, you know, correcting them, you know, reinforcing their good habits and trying to correct their bad habits. And I
Like you've
miss
been doing to
that,
me
you
for
know.
25 years, right?
That's right. But no, I literally did. I missed that, and it was hard. And the administration and people all over the country kept a very close eye on me. Compliance came by at least one day a week to practice, and sometimes twice a week to practice to make sure that I wasn't coaching. And you know, so they kept a close eye on me. But my job was to help Coach Edwards, assist him in everything, scheduling and everything, to help assist the coaches. I broke down the opponents for the coaches. I wrote reports on all three phases for the coaches. You know, I observed every practice. I sat in every meeting, and then you know just reinforced everything to the players because it was my view of the players was a virgin view. I didn't have any preconceived notions of any of them. Most of them were just numbers to me until I got to know them a little bit. So I was able to help the coaches reinforce different things with them. So, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being back. These young guys. College football is way different than when I was in it back in 1991, the last time at University of Pittsburgh. You know, obviously at Pitt we had players who were destined to go to the NFL. In fact, we had a number of first and second round draft picks on that last team I coached at Pitt. But the NFL was the unspoken word. Now these kids come here with the expectation they'll be in the NFL in 3 years. So it's a whole different landscape now with everything.
Marvin Lewis is our guest. He's out in Arizona State soaking up the sun as the Sun Devils co-defense coordinator. Marvin, just run me back through just on a LinkedIn level here. You leave Cincinnati. I would think there were several places that you could have gone and been a consultant to the consultant or moved into some sort of scouting this or just been a defense coordinator if you want or maybe a head coach somewhere or gone back into that hopper. Why? Run me back through why this was a good idea, what your options were professionally, including, hey, you love your wife and the dogs and the grandkids and, you know, you got a place out in there. You could have just hung out, right? Like, run me through where your mindset was after so long in Cincinnati because you were afforded something in the NFL most coaches aren't, which is a really long-term status where, yeah, maybe you thought about leaving or they thought about parting ways, but you never packed and you were there the whole time. You had a chance to make a move in your life, and you did something that, knowing you as I know you, I would say, well, you sort of live there and your wife, and it may be a little easier, a little bit more. But you're deep into this, and you're in an environment that is ultra competitive. You're not moving down from the NFL somewhere. The level of expectation for everyone around those programs is really high. You didn't really take much time back from all of this.
Well, I actually did. It was a great chance to recharge. I mean, I was unfortunately that last season in Cincinnati, I took over as defensive coordinator. During the 17th season, I changed offensive coordinators in the middle of the year, and the 18th season, I take over, changed defensive coordinators in the middle of the year. That beats you up. Those are good coaches that I felt like we needed to replace for the good of everybody, and so. That last, 9 games in Cincinnati there when I was a coordinator, I mean, literally it was a 5:30 a.m. to midnight job every single day. And, I was worn out. I had inquiry from one club about coming to interview for their head job where they were going to come visit with me. And, I would get excited about it for a half a day. And then half a day I would be like, what am I doing? And then I'd get excited and half a day. Then I look at my wife and she'd give me that look. And so finally I called him and just said, hey, look, I just can't do this right now. So then I spent time and I kind of did the whole media thing. I did ESPN. I spent a day up there with them. I spent 3 days at the NFL Network. I did the broadcasting with the Alliance. So
I remember that. So that was a pathway for you. There was a chance you would be doing what Rex does on Sunday mornings or call it. You looked at that. You thought about that.
Yeah, but no one came up with anything concrete. And the thing I didn't want to do, I really didn't feel comfortable getting on a plane and traveling every week, because if you're broadcasting games, you don't have a home game. And Rex can make stuff up every week and sound smart. So I'm not that smart to do that.
Well, and also flying off to Bristol, Connecticut when I mean, for anyone in the industry, I mean, Brian went through that. All the broadcasters go through that, right?
Yeah, yeah, and that was I mean, probably the most appealing was the NFL Network had said, hey, we think we would like you to do this and this, but then I think Joe Thomas kind of beat me out for that. I think they gave Joe all the money, and rightfully so. So, but it was good. But that would have been easy, from Phoenix to LA. Our daughter came here to school in '03 when we were moving to Cincinnati, and so she's lived here, and we had at that point 2 grandsons. So we had bought a house here in 14. My sister-in-law lives here, so my wife always wanted to be here, and she's close to family, and so we just said we were going to be at the house, and so everything worked out. And Ray Anderson had represented me, Brian back in the day, and then me later on, and Coach Edwards, and he and Herman both offered me an opportunity at any point to come here and join them in whatever capacity I wanted. So
20 minutes from home, right?
It takes about 20 minutes to get here in the morning, and so it's great. The building has great energy, and obviously with Herm here, the energy in the building is tremendous. We have very good, he's done a great job of helping these guys become men, and that's so important to him. He's treating them like pros, and so it's a great atmosphere. We got, he had a great young coaching staff, and my job last year was to help them, with Hall of Famer Kevin Mawai, Derek Hagan, who played well in the league. I already mentioned Antonio Pierce, and some really great coaches that we have here that you feel really, really good about. And so it's been fun. And, I don't know what next year holds, but with this 2020 season, we're going to coach the hell out of the defense here.
Well, Marv, I'll tell you this because we'll get off Arizona State in a minute, because I called you to talk about America and where we are and young people and the knee and all, just Roger Goodell's speech, all that stuff. But Arizona State, I just got to say this. Back when I was working on that book on coaching and leadership directed to Baltimore, Coach Cush was still alive, and I had never met Coach Frank Cush before, and we had set up a little visit. And I drove up into the lobby where I guess you work, right in Sun Devil Stadium, and I took the elevator straight on up, and all to his office, and he had a little Baltimore Colts pencil distributor, a little Baltimore Colt helmet that he still kept on his head, and we sat there for an hour and talked about all things football and Arizona State. So when I think Arizona State football, I think of my day with Coach Cush there and beating the hell out of the other guys in the Pac-10. How about that?
Yeah, well, I didn't ever know Coach Cush, but his son is still around at every game, and we're actually on the other side now. We have a brand new building on the other side of the stadium. Right. So,
when I walked in, it was a whole bunch of Sizzle stuff, a bunch of Terrell Suggs stuff, and a bunch of Todd Heap stuff, and so I felt right at home.
I have Big Suggsy. He actually did a Zoom conference with our defensive players about a month ago, and it was awesome.
Did he turn the music down behind him, or did he go hip hop the whole thing?
He did a tremendous job. He was like a little hesitant, coach, I really don't like to do this stuff much. And, man, he got going, and they started asking questions. It was awesome. And, people forget what a dominant player he was here. He was back then, the Pac-10 freshman player of the year, and then he ended up being the Pac-12 defensive player of the year after the 2002 season. He also, at one point in high school, ran for almost 250 yards in a playoff game.
Because nobody could tackle him, right?
That's right. So,
and Dirk didn't make him a running back after all that, huh?
Yeah. So it was really, it was cool to have him, and they try to really reach out, to the alums here and have open doors, and so it was pretty cool though. But there's been a lot of great players walk these halls or play here. Mike Haynes, et cetera. John Jefferson. Danny White, a lot of guys who really came through here, and Danny's around all the time. Meg Haynes comes over all the time. So it's fun to see these guys. Adam Archuleta, obviously Pat Tillman. It's cool. Levi Jones, who I had the pleasure of coaching in Cincinnati. So we really have, a lot of great players, Vontez, Burfict, that are around, and they open up the doors to work out here.
All right, Marv, we got problems in America. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. From the COVID situation into where we are and kids coming back to school, and obviously what happened in Oklahoma State this week, and players with Twitter and Instagram and all sorts of things. I still see Lamar Jackson doing stuff that I'm sure the Ravens are like, please don't be diving over sea-doos on TV and on Instagram during this period of time. But trying to keep young people away from each other, trying to keep them safe, then trying to bring them back together. Harbaugh got the rules from the NFL last week and said, how are we going to play football with masks on 6 feet apart? It's not that kind of sport. Where are you through all of this with what's happened in our country, not just pandemic-wise, but certainly what's happened in the aftermath of George Floyd?
Well, I think obviously the country thing really is outweighing where we are in sports right now. And I think that's the first thing. We're been a lot of outcry, obviously, about coaching in the NFL and so forth. And if you look at society and where we are as a country, the NFL is a small microcosm of that. So, but yes, we're right now, in 2020, there's been a lot go on, and hopefully young people will be able to look back on this time and realize that this will be a time for change. They'll be able to look back to this year and hopefully feel good about a time for change, as we look at things, as people are calling for police reform. And we know, being a police officer, the obligation they have, responsibility they have, and just being able to do their job and how important their job is. But the fact that maybe some people were getting some maybe too many bad eggs, or now because of cameras and social media and everything, it's enhanced so much, and really, it's a scary time for young people. And I have a son, you have a son, and it's different, and my son said that to me before. He says, when you get pulled over, they know who you are, but as soon as they run your plates, he says, that's not the same for everybody else. And, until he said that,
well, Dave Chappelle pointed that. I don't know if you've seen the Dave Chappelle video from last week. It's unbelievably powerful. It's called 846, and he did a little 30-minute video, and he spoke to that, how it's different being a celebrity than anybody else from the neighborhood.
Right. And that's the difference. There's an anxiety that comes no matter when those lights come on anyway. But yet when they walk up and they say, hey, coach, or whatever, they already know who you are, where it's different for other people. And so really, it's just totally out of the realm, and really that's why we have to open our ears and listen. We have to let these young people speak, and they have to ask, and we have to have conversation. We have to talk. And we've had to do that with the athletes here. We had a very powerful conference about 2 weeks ago for all athletes here, male, female, and just them listening or voicing their opinions and really getting things off of their mind, off of their chest. So it was just really powerful to listen to some of these female athletes who play women's lacrosse, and they're the only minority player on the team, or the cross-country running team, beach volleyball team. It's just interesting, some of these other sports, Olympic sports and so forth, that you don't think about. And they may be the only minority athlete on the team. And listen to them talk. And then one of the basketball players spoke a lot. Football players always get to talk. So we knew what they were going to say when they spoke. But it was great to listen to the other athletes across the athletic department here speak. There are 26 sports here at ASU. So it's really pretty cool to listen to some of these kids speak their minds.
And they come from everywhere, right? Literally.
They come from everywhere. They literally do. The volleyball coaches recruited a lot of Eastern European athletes, and Sonia, and she's a friend of my daughter's, and it's really pretty cool to see these kids when you see them when they come across campus, or when there's an athletic department meeting that we're involved in.
Marvin Lewis is our guest. He is at Arizona State. I still own the video from the '01 parade of Mike Flynn and I in the rain. I'm much younger there. It is before I started dyeing my hair, Marvin. Now, I was going to say, if a police officer pulls you over, you don't convince him you're Tubby Smith, or no? That's not allowed.
only when I was in Kentucky.
Right.
Okay. Only was that one.
Different
when
in Ohio.
It's
all on you. For you and young people, and I seem to lose sight of this because I think I'm around a lot of young people being in your locker rooms, NFL locker rooms, for all these years, that I'm definitely getting older, even if you're accusing me of dyeing my hair one way or another. When I see 21, 22-year-old kids come in, I mean, Hollywood Brown looks like he's about 15, and you're always subjected to that, right? You were always in these rooms with 20 and 21-year-old young men trying to interview them to be the next whatever they were going to be for you. Does it skew even younger to you at Arizona State? I mean, it would feel to me that you were always on sort of the edge of what was ever going on with young African-American athletes, music, culture, fads, all of that, because you've just perpetually spent your life around 20 to 26-year-old young influencers, quite frankly, right?
Yeah, we really have, but we've lived in a bubble, because literally within athletics and just going back from high school and so forth, where, I grew up in small town, outside of Pittsburgh, very blue collar, where, athletics drew everybody together, and it always does. And when someone gets too far left or too far right, you know what? They end up not being on part of your team anymore. And that's the difference. And that's where we are right now. As a country and a culture, we're having to change that. And
I think to myself all the time, Marv. I think if you, and look, my Dundalk and my Archie Bunker background, very, very well worn. I mean, I've talked a lot about this over the last 5 years, and I think to myself, the things that people say and write, I wonder, have you ever had a person of another denomination, faith, color, gender, religion, whatever it would be, on your team, on your work team, in your class, in your workspace, in anything that you would participate in life? I think we all have. I feel like we all have, but maybe in 2020 I've really been mistaken about this, because it is dispiriting to see it become like this at this point in our lives.
Yeah, it has, but it's as though a lot of us, we exist and we're able to go from point A to point B and not let that be a stumbling block. We're able to continue and work through it. We're able to help smooth those things out. And I think right now, where everybody is we got to do a better job of listening and let people voice, say what's important to them, and, not be suppressed so much. And, there's a time and a place, we know, for everything. But at this point, it really letting these young people voice their opinions and to talk these things out. But the other part of it is just the fear of where they are right now with where the state of the police is, and unfortunately it's been across the country. You know what I mean? It's not like it's been just one particular area. It's been unfortunately across our country, and that's not a good thing.
Marvin Lewis is our guest. We're talking about the life and the future and all that good stuff for you. So football, I've been arguing this point with everyone. You really believe we're going to play football and have it be normal? Who's going to be in the stands? What is your vision? Like, what's Arizona? You're preparing as though there's football. What does it look like on October the 10th? Who's in the stands? What are we doing?
Yeah, I think it's a step by step. I think number one, yes, we're preparing as though there's going to be football, but it's going to have to be step by step. And I don't know that, I think everybody's up in the air whether or not it's going to be able to happen that way. Obviously football's a contact sport, just like Coach Harbaugh said. we're used to having meetings. We're used to being in close proximity to each other. And if the virus continues to multiply and spread the way it is, that's going to be difficult because that's the way we are. We have a hard enough time when the flu season comes around each year within the NFL or college football. Last year here, the trainer said, Jerry, why don't we have hand sanitizers? We got this beautiful new building, and they didn't put hand sanitizers on the walls here. So you know what they did this spring? They were installing hand sanitizers, and then the pandemic hit. And it's just it's going to be interesting. So it's not going to be the same. We know right now we're not going to put crowds together like that. At least here at Arizona State, the president has come out and already said that.
Well, I hope you stay safe. Let's get some hand sanitizer. Put your mask on. Give my love to Peggy and the grandchildren, the grandchildren to be, and all that good stuff. And Marcus is out there with you too, huh? So has the family sequestering? How did that go? 2 months locked down.
Well, you are like, you mentioned you're blessed to be here, to be able to be outside. I had to walk on the golf course because they took away the carts and everything. So that was part of it. Yes, but Marcus is here, which was a good thing for me, or else I'd have been, my wife would have been chartering planes, flying across the country to go pick him up. So,
and the dogs.
That's right, and the dogs. So literally Marcus lives about 4 or 5 minutes from his sister, and they live about 10, 15 minutes from us. So we got everybody in pretty close proximity. So, yeah, we've kind of been kept to ourselves, basically. We were very trying to stay away from the boys too much, but it's hard to stay away from those little dudes very long.
Well, it's only going to be 103 today. Make sure you hit them straight out there if you get 9 in, Marv. And I will continue to stay in touch. I appreciate all of your encouragement over all the years and your paternal watch over me. That I hope at some point we get together and just have some tacos or something.
That's right. We'd come out here. I can't remember. You like that taco place?
I got a spot. Don't worry.
You have a spot every place for. I know Rocco's Tacos down in South Florida. You got a place everywhere.
People don't trust me though. I'm too skinny. I'm too skinny to trust for good food, I think, right? But I tell you what, we got a new sponsor, Marv. It's Taharka Ice Cream, and this is where you're really missing out because this is a Baltimore thing, and they've been sending me all this wake and bake and this pistachio ice cream, so they're trying to fatten me up. So I'll have as well as Royal Farms with the fried chicken. So come home soon, man. We're gonna have maybe a Ravens reunion or something sometime. All right?
Well, I know I gotta order some crab cakes from up there at Coco's.
We will take care of you on the crab cake trail, my brother. Take care of yourself. It's good hearing your voice as always. I'm sorry we can't be together, but hey, I'm going to be an Arizona State fan now that you're there. So,
cool.
See, your daughter goes out there 20 years ago, and you all wind up wearing the gear.
Right. All right. Tell Jen hi for me.
You got it.
Thank you.
Marvin Lewis, co-defensive coordinator of the Arizona State Sun Devils, thesundevils.com, and getting ready for football season. Pac-10, Pac-12. Pack something. They add teams. Big Ten doesn't even have 10 teams. Changing. I had Peter Boulware on the other day. I can't even hate Florida State anymore. We're all moving around. So I'm going to root for Arizona State. How about that? Mighty Sun Devils. Todd Heap and Sizzle will go along with that, and the ghost of Frank Kush as well. By the way, if you want to check out that Frank Kush video, you can do that out at YouTube. It's out there. Just put WNST and Frank Kush in. It was a fun conversation with him about some old school football. Some of it was actually not blue as well. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. We're Baltimore Positive. Don Moeller and I have gotten together with a series of conversations with all sorts of leaders. Brandon Scott now going to be the mayor of Baltimore. We opined about that a little earlier in the week as well. Taking a little downtime, getting back to doing some sports as well with Marty Conway and Peter Boulware this week, and obviously Marvin Lewis as well. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, Snapchat and Instagram, and everywhere the internet goes from here to Scottsdale, Arizona, or is it Tempe? We are WNST.net, AM 1570, calm, local, Baltimore positive, and still dancing to the oldies in Super Bowl 35.